Good afternoon, everyone. Lewis Collins here with the Collins Group, hosted by Keller Williams Realty Gulf Coast. Today, we are going to be doing our deep dive into the VA loan product, and we have the great and well-renowned Angela Lane in-house with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. It's our pleasure. So Angela has been in the business for quite some time. She has a wealth of knowledge and experience. And real quick, go ahead and give a little bit of your background just to let people know kind of where you come from, what your expertise is, and that sort of thing.
Well, it goes way, way back, longer than I look like I have been around, I hope.
Of course.
But back when I was a senior in high school in Escondido, California, as a matter of fact, I was an office manager for Century 21 and kind of got my feet wet there in the real estate industry.
Nice.
My mother had always worked for a brokerage in Escondido, and so I'd always spent my summers and any spare time there with her and the brokers that she worked with, just absorbing all that they could. So I was super excited when I was a senior to jump in on my own. Mm-hmm. I just always loved math and finance, and a job presented itself at a local bank as a loan processor trainee. So that's actually where I began getting all of my real estate knowledge. Worked there for about a year and a half and then decided to jump out and go be a loan officer. So
Very cool.
At that point, I was out construction loans, commercial loans, anything that they would let me learn.
Yeah.
I'd learn it. I loved it. So that's where it all began, way back in the 80s.
Don't date yourself.
Yeah, way back in the 80s.
She's got 25 years of experience, but really only 3 years in the business. That's what it is.
Yeah, there you go. But I love it, and I've done just about everything. Like I said, I started out processing, jumped out, and I was a loan officer for just such a long time, doing just about everything that I could for banks and savings and loans. Even worked for a few brokers.
Nice.
I prefer being with a direct lender just because you've got all the products, you have all the control. So that's kind of the way that I went. But I did work for a few brokers there for a little while. But I've also been an underwriter.
Yeah.
I was an underwriter for a bank, Bank of Commerce in Escondido, California for a long, long, long time.
Right.
Most recently, I have been with Southeast Mortgage for 5.5 years. They're based out of Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay.
And they are entering their 30th year.
Oh, nice.
So our
not a brand new
CEO
startup or
and, gosh, a dozen others have been there for nearly 30 years.
That is nice.
So they've got the expertise, and we are VA direct lenders, FHA direct underwriters. We pretty much do it all.
Excellent, excellent. Well, thank you so much for that intro with your experience. So obviously, guys, you're going to be listening to and getting some expertise from somebody who has been in the business, who knows what they're talking about, and, obviously has been on the backside of the loan process with being an underwriter in the processing role. So a lot of people, they'll just step into a loan officer position and kind of stay there and hang their hat there. And while that's great, it kind of gets a little bit more nuanced when you're an underwriter, when you're a processor, and you see things, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you see things that most loan officers may not see or be aware of, right?
Oh, my goodness sakes. Yeah, I firmly believe every loan officer should have to be a processor first.
Yeah.
They should have to be in those trenches and see all of that documentation and know what is required first, because that's what helps those deals flow.
Right.
That's what really helps with all the pre-approvals. It's knowing what to look for on that pay stub, on that bank statement.
That's huge.
Seeing the issues before the loan is even turned in.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That proactive approach is actually why Angela is one of our preferred lenders. She came to us about 2 years ago, and just her ability to communicate and kind of have that plan of action in place is paramount when it comes to getting a deal done smoothly, quickly, and with no hassle. So we're going to be jumping into some of the loan highlights for the VA loan and just going over some of the more detailed items of the features of that loan, so that you that are eligible out there, are veterans or active duty, you know exactly what you're getting into and how to utilize this loan to the best of your ability with someone like Angela and in your home buying process. So
all the while keeping in mind, you don't have to be an expert.
Yeah.
And your buyer does not have to be an expert. All they need to know is that they're trusting the right person to
Bingo.
put it together.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And that's huge. And we'll definitely put up Angela's contact information at the end of this podcast, at the end of this video, so you can reach out to her directly with questions. Of course, we defer to her if we don't know something. So by no means are we the experts as the agents. We know enough to get ourselves in trouble, but we always defer to the lenders. That
Well, and just when you think you know it all, the agencies change guidelines and figures, and
yeah.
you're learning it all again anyway. But
Exactly.
yeah.
So being plugged in all the time is
Always
super
good
key.
to have the best information.
Absolutely. So some of the features of the VA loan, Angela, can you go over just some of the kind of the high level features that, most people may know about, such as, the down payment requirement, the guarantee, there's some, I guess, misconception that VA loans are hard to close, they take forever.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Yeah.
We just dealt with that so much in the last year. When the market became so competitive,
Right.
and there were so many offers being put on the table in front of all of these sellers, and a lot of sellers that maybe had been bitten in the past
Right.
with a VA buyer were a little hesitant to accept that VA offer when we're just living in such a different age. They're just not big and bad and scary like they used to be.
Sure.
The appraisals don't get torn apart like they used to.
Yeah.
The sellers don't have to spend a lot of money helping the buyers get into the home like
Sure.
they used to. So, no, VA is a wonderful loan for our deserved veterans
Oh, 100%.
and active duty service members. Like, it is amazing what they have done in their service, and the fact that this is a benefit they have earned and deserved.
Oh, definitely.
So what Veterans Affairs does for an active duty service member or a veteran is provide them with a home loan with no down payment. So right there, bam.
Yep.
You're buying a $300,000 home, your loan's going to be $300,000. I mean,
That's it.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
No down payment, no out of pocket, and like I said, well deserved for your time serving the country. There's a caveat in that in order to continue to ensure to offer this amazing program, VA does collect a funding fee. That funding fee gets added onto your loan, though. That's not something that you have to come out of pocket with.
Okay.
And there's certain percentages depending on your down payment and how much of your entitlement you have left.
Gotcha.
And there's also ways that you might be exempt and not have to pay that funding fee that we can get into if you'd like to.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But basically, that'll get added to the amount of the loan. But that's really about it.
Okay.
Zero down payment. You have limited closing costs, too, because veterans aren't allowed to pay all the fees.
Right.
And, and then, you can start talking about how we can even cover closing costs. So
Yeah. Well, that's actually
lots to talk about.
That's actually a great distinction. So a lot of people see a 100% financing loan and go, oh, wow, no down payment, no closing costs. Well, it's limited closing costs. The down payment and the closing costs are going to be two unique charges to get into that home. So let's hit on some of the closing costs for, a typical transaction, and then we'll, maybe discuss ways that we can mitigate those or have those deferred with some of the home buying programs that are out there.
Right. Because our goal is to get the veteran, that buyer, into the home with as least amount of out-of-pocket as possible, right?
Absolutely.
You're buying a home, and if it's the first time, you need a lawnmower.
Yeah.
You need a weed whacker.
Mama needs new furniture.
You got to have furniture. So we want to make sure you keep as much money in your own pocket as possible. So that's kind of what we do is one with the 100% financing, and then we'll find ways to handle the closing costs. And closing costs, there's a variety of costs associated with each and every mortgage. You've got your title charges for your title policy and your title search and surveys and endorsements and appraisals and just a variety of fees, and they can really add up. Those closing costs can get covered partly by the seller, depending on what market we're in.
Absolutely.
Sure couldn't do that last year.
Nope.
Sellers were not very happy to help, but that's kind of coming around now.
It is, very much so.
My favorite way to handle the closing costs is with down payment assistance, though.
Yeah, huge.
There is a fantastic program that we tack on to the VA loan called Hometown Heroes. And this program is available through the state of Florida. Through Florida Housing.
Okay.
And not everybody can do it. You have to be an approved lender. They hold you accountable. You got to go through training. Just not anybody on the street can put together Hometown Heroes.
Right? Yeah.
Yes, because it's a program that has a lot of nuances. Much like you're going to qualify for the VA loan, you have to make sure you meet the qualifications for Hometown Heroes as well.
Got it.
But that program will offer 5% of the mortgage on the first in closing cost assistance. So with that $300,000 I threw out earlier,
That's huge.
assuming there's no funding fee,
Yeah.
they're going to have $15,000 that they can use to pay their first year's homeowner's insurance, to pay their tax prorations, to pay that survey, any other fees that they need to. So, so many times in this instance, we are given the opportunity to take excess funds.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you can't get the money to go shopping at Rooms to Go.
You're not getting it back as a check at closing. Guys.
If the closing costs only come in at 10, we can't give you $5,000 to go buy that lawnmower. But we can take that $5,000 and apply it to your $300,000 loan. So then your loan's only $295.
Okay.
And guess what? You've reduced the amount of your monthly payment.
What about discount points? Can it be applied to those as well to buy the rate down?
Well, with Hometown Heroes, Florida Housing set those fees. It's not like a typical VA where my rate desk is pulling in pricing from the secondary market. We're not getting them that way.
Yeah.
Florida Housing provides those that information on the interest rate.
So the rate is the rate if you're using that program.
Yeah, it is. Which actually is really good because it's a very even playing field for anybody that's approved to offer this.
Yeah, if you qualify, you know what your rate's going to be, and you don't have to worry about any kind of tiers or anything, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. But it can cover all of the other fees. It can cover any underwriting or document, or it can cover the attorney fee if the seller's not paying for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool.
It's a great tool. I love more than anything reducing the amount on the mortgage. That's just fantastic to be like, guess what? You also get to use this money to reduce your monthly payment. So very handy. Now, so these funds are going to be in the form of a silent second mortgage. So you'll have your primary mortgage that's going to sit as a lien.
Sure.
And then you'll have this second mortgage. So you'd have a $15,000 in our example, second lien, but it has no interest, has no payments.
No payments, guys.
For 30 years. So as long as that home is owed, you don't have to do anything with it. You don't have to touch it. Now, if you sell the property or you were to refinance it or say deed the property, if say a father was to deed the property to his son, then the amount is due.
Yeah,
and
that
payable.
transfer of ownership kind of is that trigger, right?
Yeah. They want it to stay with the original buyer.
Sure. Okay. I mean, that makes sense. Now, can you touch real quick on the eligibility for both that program and the VA loan in general, just to kind of let people know, like, hey, maybe I did some time in the service, many years ago. It was only 3 or 4 years, and now I'm, say a police officer. Do I qualify for either the VA loan or that Hometown Heroes program in any way, shape, or form?
Sure. Well, I'll start with Hometown Heroes because that has a variety. There's approximately 50 different professions that qualify for that.
So we need to
So you mentioned veteran and you mentioned police officer. So one of those or a combination thereof qualifies for that, along with teachers and nurses and healthcare providers and massage therapy. I mean, there's so many options.
Very cool.
It's super fun. But the qualification for that, you have to meet income guidelines.
Okay.
So in other words, it is a needs-based. Someone who's making $750,000 a year is not going to get free money from the government to help with their closing costs.
Yeah, that's going to be in the upper echelon, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Minimum credit score is 640.
Okay.
So very, very accessible for so many.
Yeah.
They also watch the debt to income ratio a little bit.
Okay.
If we were just doing a single VA loan, I have the ability to exceed 55.
Okay.
But if we're doing Hometown Heroes, we have to really keep that number below 50.
Okay, so tighten it up a little bit that way. Okay.
Yeah. So they really make sure they want to set the veteran up for success.
Sure.
They want to make sure that they're giving them something that they can successfully pay and win.
Yeah.
So that's kind of all there is with the Hometown Heroes. As far as qualifying for a VA loan, that's easy breezy. If you're active duty, I'm going to just get your current leave and earnings statement, your LES.
Yeah.
If you're retired, I'm going to get your DD 214.
Yep.
And our submissions form requests a certificate of eligibility.
Yep, the
direct.
COE. Yep.
COE, direct online from VA. Takes minutes to get. It's super easy.
See.
But that's going to tell us everything we need to get started. It's going to let us know if you've used your eligibility before, if you have, what you used it on, when you used it on, if it's been paid back, if you have any remaining entitlement. It's also going to let us know if there's a exemption for that funding fee.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, this one little form tells us so much.
So when you mentioned the exemption, obviously the funding fee is a cost to the borrower. How would you go about getting that exemption, or what are the details behind that exactly?
It is. You're exempt if you have a service-related disability.
Okay.
Typically more than 10%.
Got it.
So if a good way for a veteran to know if they're exempt is because they're receiving benefits from the military. If they're getting that monthly disability payment,
Yep.
if I see that on their application, that's usually a pretty good indication that they're going to be exempt from it.
Okay.
And then I confirm it when the team receives the certificate of eligibility.
Excellent. So obviously, guys, there's ways to kind of get around that. And if you have served, especially if you're in combat or have some sort of disability rating and injury during your time of service, then that certificate of eligibility is something that they're going to scrutinize and look at very, very heavily. So
right, we want to make sure everybody gets the benefits that they're due. I will tell you that just because you do pay a VA funding fee at closing, if your circumstances changes,
Yep.
you can still apply to get that refunded to you. I did a loan last summer. Wow, that seems crazy to say. It was last summer.
Last summer when the world was crazy.
While the buyer was in the process of having all the doctor's appointments and receiving his disability rating and going through all of that. So when all of that was done, he just submitted that to VA, and he was able to get his funding fee refunded to him.
That is brilliant. So even if it's something that you haven't gone through the process of going to the VA and getting that disability, maybe you're in the process of doing that, obviously you have some additional options to get those funds back in your pocket. So that's huge.
And it's a big savings. I mean, if you haven't used it before, like I said, it gets tacked on to your original mortgage, and it's thousands of dollars. So by having an exemption and not having that,
right,
your payment will be lower than someone else going through that same process.
Yeah. And just real quick, the first time use, it's a percentage of the loan amount, right? For that
Correct.
funding fee? Is
Correct.
It still 2.15 or
2.3?
2.3, okay.
So 2.3% of your loan amount is your first time use.
Okay.
If you have used it before, like perhaps it's on your current home that you're selling, then your funding fee would be 3.6%.
Okay.
Now it's reduced. If you do have a down payment, which is where that cool part of, hey, we got excess funds, we're going to reduce their mortgage, therefore they do have a down payment. If you have a down payment of 5% or more, your VA funding fee is reduced to 1.65.
That's huge. Almost, cutting it in half.
Yeah, it's pretty much in half.
That's awesome.
That can also be a good benefit. So can you tell I love this? I love just playing with the numbers and just seeing how good I can get everything.
She loves spreadsheets, I'm sure. So she's sitting there plugging away and doing all that stuff. But that's going to be a huge asset on your side, guys, and definitely for us, because we run different scenarios through Angela multiple times, and we say, hey, this borrower can do thus and such, and what if we change this one aspect just to see if that would benefit them or change the dynamic of their purchasing power. So that's a huge benefit, again, of having somebody that's an expert, that is passionate about that, and really why we choose to work with people like Angela all the time, that they put their clients at the forefront of their best interest to give them those different options, because buying a house is huge. Largest asset that you ever purchased, typically,
Yeah,
right?
and you want those options.
Yeah.
We want to be able to put you into that home that you've just been dreaming about.
Yep.
Or if it's not quite time for that forever home, get you into the first home.
Yeah.
Let's get you in this real estate game because inventory's low.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's not wait. Let's get you in something.
Let's go ahead and get the process started.
Yeah.
Real quick, let's touch on the entitlement aspect. You mentioned that if you had, an entitlement on the certificate of eligibility and perhaps you used it once before, can you kind of illustrate, just a brief example of what that entitlement looks like?
Right. So, as I mentioned, that a lot of times with veterans, they've already purchased a home. Okay.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, they're vacating that property. So many times, veterans, they get stationed elsewhere. They get moved. Not necessarily, not necessarily of their own wishes, but they're going to go somewhere else for a while. Just because you are living in one area and you own a home and you've used your VA before does not mean that when you go into that next area, you can't buy, or you can't buy using VA. It doesn't mean you necessarily have to look at a different option. VA has what's called remaining entitlement. You may not have used it all on that home that you currently use. So with that certificate of eligibility, we are able to learn what you have remaining, and that fantastic submissions team that I said, they will do the calculations and be like, as long as they purchase a home over this amount or between this and that, they're fine. They can buy that next home without you having to sell that first property.
Oh, I see. So again, that's very important because a lot of people, I've heard, again, the false notion that if you have a VA loan, you can't use it again.
Yeah, they're like, oh, nope, I've already done that.
It's like
I can't do it
a one and done
again.
type thing, right?
And not the case.
Yeah.
Not the case. You can do many.
Up to the amount of the entitlement, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Something else to consider too, say that husband and wife owned a home and unfortunately the husband passed.
Yeah.
Perhaps, something happened to him while he was, serving his country, or maybe it's been since he got back. That spouse has benefits as well, as long as she hasn't remarried.
Okay.
So say that, you have someone coming who she wants to buy a home now. She's ready to own a home, and her husband had always done everything. I hear this all the time. If her husband was a veteran and he had eligibility, that transfers to her. Again, assuming she hasn't remarried, and assuming that with his DD 214 and his death certificate, we can get a certificate of eligibility in her own name, and she can buy just as though she was a veteran.
What a great
using
way to
all
take
of those
care.
same parameters. We can still do a VA loan. We can put her in Hometown Heroes.
That's powerful.
It can be life-changing.
Yeah,
it really can.
That's like a legacy type scenario where you're taking care of the people that, were making the back end sacrifice because obviously their spouse was deployed, they had time away from kids, family, the stuff like that. And then when they do make that, or, are called to make that ultimate sacrifice, the family's still taken care of. So that is huge when it comes to another benefit. Hopefully one that, isn't used often, but it is a benefit there for the family members of those fallen soldiers.
Yep, and those are called survivor benefits.
Yep.
So she too would have eligibility.
That is brilliant. That is great. Well, we're trying to think of any other items about the VA loan that you wanted to hit on.
Bo and I actually had a fantastic scenario recently.
Oh, yeah.
Have you guys spoke about it?
Yeah, we actually did it on our initial one where we did a kind of a high-level 30,000-foot view. But I guess if you want to get a little bit more granular, kind of give some detail about the one that we did for an active duty member with the Hometown Heroes program.
It worked out. It worked out so good. We just closed that one, I think, like two months ago.
Yeah.
But yes, we did just a single amazing dynamo of a girl.
Yeah.
And she was buying her first home, and we put her with the VA and got her Hometown Hero.
Yep.
And I think she came to the table that day with $400 to close.
That is beautiful.
Just nothing.
That's
and
less
she
than
was over the moon.
to rent.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes. Well, and not to mention, too, I mean, the day of closing, you can have 45, nearly 60 days sometimes before your first payment is due.
Bingo. Yeah.
So if you're closing, say, December 15th, your first payment date's not until February 1st.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what landlord does that for you?
Absolutely. I'm a landlord. I wouldn't do it.
Right.
I mean,
You're
that's
like,
a
I want
business.
first, I want last.
I want your first kid, blood
Right.
sample. No, I'm just kidding. But no, that was huge, because I know for that particular neighborhood where this service member bought, they were actually offering some amazing incentives from a builder perspective. But it turned out that working with Angela and going through this program was actually more advantageous using this individual's VA loan.
Yeah. Yeah, it was powerful.
Yes.
It really was. So, and that's what we're here to do. Just because you think that, you have one option,
Yeah.
not always the case. We're a team, and that's what we're going to do is try to help you as a buyer achieve all the goals that you want to achieve. We want that. We want you to win.
Right.
And real estate is so fun, and owning your own home
yeah.
is so fun. Like,
Absolutely.
who wants to pay a landlord's mortgage?
Well, hopefully people that
Yeah, I
rent
know.
my houses.
Right. Yes.
But yeah, absolutely. We're here for getting you into that biggest asset of your life, the biggest purchase typically of your life, and helping to build that legacy wealth and, giving you a place to call home. And, we on the agent side, we're the ones that kind of sell the sizzle, so to speak, of the steak. Angela has the numbers, kind of the more, down to earth, like, here's what it's going to cost you, here's how we can do it. And working collectively as a team is just so tremendous for you guys out there, because again, you have options. You know what you can do. You have a game plan, and you're not fumbling through the dark to get into this place that you're going to call home, right?
That's right. That's
Absolutely.
right. And as we're a team, I mean, Lewis and his team knows that they can reach out to me. If it's 9:15 on a Tuesday night, they can send me a text. I'll answer my phone. We make sure that this experience is above and beyond all of your expectations.
And she's not joking, guys. I seriously think she responded to his text while she was snorkeling underwater one day or something. She was like out of town on vacation, and she was like on a boat or something
There's
crazy.
no vacations.
Yeah,
No,
exactly.
that's what we're here to do. So yes, the VA is a fantastic tool.
Yeah.
If you're a veteran, just, oh my goodness, all day long. Like we said,
Yeah.
they have, served this wonderful country to give us all the freedoms that we have, and it's not like it was.
Yeah.
It's not like it was, and I'm so happy that you understand that they don't take any longer. They're not any more expensive. The appraisers are not a nightmare. They're not gonna pick it apart.
Right. So yeah, they're great.
Yeah.
Well, we'll go ahead and wrap it up here. We're kind of running down to our time limit. We will be posting a link to contact Angela with her direct contact information, some of the information about the Hometown Heroes program, and also for ourselves here at the Collins Group. I meant to put her on the spot, but real quick, Angela, any quirky things that you might want to tell about yourself? One little tidbit of info for the audience?
Quirky.
Yeah.
Other than the fact that I've been doing this for so long. Well, yes, actually. I am also, although you wouldn't know it because I have a voice and I'm very raspy right now, but if you listen to country radio here in Pensacola,
Yep.
and you happen to be listening to a song and you're like, oh man, who does this song? I love this song.
Yep.
It'll be my voice at the end of the song that tells you the name of the song and who sang it.
There you go. So
That's quirky about me.
not only is she a rock star, a loan officer with a local mortgage company, she's also a radio personality, radio wife personality, actually a radio personality herself. So thank you so much, Angela, for taking your time to come out here and explain some of the details of the VA loan. Again, we're going to be linking all the information to her webpage, her direct contact info. You can reach out to her anytime with questions